Minutes I'm trying to just introduce lots of kind of cool stuff you can do with WordPress and with networking stuff. For example, these are just two e-commerce sites, so we're going from social networking to e-commerce. In my opinion, it's all kind of the same now. There's social commerce, there's mobile commerce. It's all a community building effort in the end of the day because you're trying to create a little community for your product to sell into. This particular site is all WordPress. It's a pretty high-end site because there's a lot of design going on. It's based in dreaded Kilkenny, and it's all responsive to the mobile phone as well. So you'll see here everything works on the mobile phone straight off the bat. It all conforms to the screen sizes. And again, not a huge amount of effort. There is a bit of coding that needs to go into what's called responsive design, but at the same time, the sites all work now on mobile commerce. So in London and big cities like that, mobile technology, you might think that there's no point building an app or something, or there's no point going responsive. But in the bigger cities, people are traveling a lot. They're in their, spend a lot of time in the underground. They spend a lot of time on transport. So mobile technology is huge now, and it's starting to kind of take off more and more. And there's a lot of people actually surfing products on their phone, checking things out. In Ireland, it wouldn't be a big deal, but I think in London and places like that, it's starting to become like 20% of all viewing to a website is mobile. So, also WordPress itself is actually 20% of the internet. The chances are, I suppose, 1 in 5 chance it's WordPress. So that's what we're actually talking about here, is a huge scale in terms of what this is doing. So I think it's closing in on 20%, it is like 19 or something like that. Same goes for this site, e-commerce. It's all responsive to the phone. You can see your cart here on the phone. And you can see all the products are resized, all the discount codes. The footer elements are all there, so you can see the 3D checkouts and all that kind of stuff. And again, WordPress, because of its nature, actually, it's used so much. Kind of like Internet Explorer here, everyone kind of hates Internet Explorer, but WordPress does have security issues on its hands and things like that, because of course 20% of the sites are WordPress, so if you're going to build a hack or something like that, you're going to build it for the one that's 20% of the web, because it does the most damage. So, you need to be vigilant with things like e-commerce wasn't a big thing for WordPress before. Like this year, it wasn't huge, but now it's so easy to use. So I'm going to probably introduce something throughout the year on this kind of stuff as well when we start diving into e-commerce stuff. But that's just, I suppose, these are just examples of WordPress sites we've built. And they have design elements in there, maybe like the logos and the color schemes and different things that are a little bit trickier to get at. And it's something worth talking about the social networking technology as well. This is actually the community element of small business plans. So again, you get all the wall posts here, what's happening, what questions are being fired in. And again, the bank took the approach. This is interesting actually from a marketing perspective. Bank marketing in the day, like, I'm sure I dive into it too much here about bank marketing, but it's all very much the photoshopped faces, the handshakes, the trust, the loyalty. You've seen all the signs on the walls when you walk into any of the top banks in Ireland. And, there is no trust, there is no loyalty, and all that stuff was a bit of marketing spin, So it's difficult for them to rebuild a kind of a reputation, even though they've kind of gutted a lot of those elements away, and they are trying to rebuild a good kind of impression of banks, and we kind of do need banks, even if we hate them. They're trying different approaches. This isn't exactly, not putting the full weight behind something like small business can, but they're trying different approaches. They know that social media is a big thing. How do we get involved in that? We can't just open up a Facebook page and start putting up cool stuff. Like I was out last night at 2 o'clock on my bank machine. You can't do that stuff. So you kind of have to outsource it a little bit. Like it's not cool to be marketing a bank, but social media stuff. A lot of the cooler brands, like the ones that I can think of, that huge communities like Nike, North Face, all that outdoor exploration stuff. They thrive on this stuff because it's perfect. It's what you want to share on top of a mountain. Like take a photograph. This is cool. And like they're trying to dive into it a little bit, and this is an opportunity to create an open forum. So you can come on here and you can bash, Ulster Bank. You can write a big article about it, and you'll typically get a response to that where they're trying to tackle the problems and so on, and they're trying to be a little bit more open. But it's hard to turn a bank into a social business incredibly difficult. So, like a lot of people in the marketing departments of banks want to go there, but you're kind of getting stopped by a lot of red tape. So it's an opportunity, this particular site is an opportunity to kind of, I suppose, test the boundaries on how far you can push certain things like this, like sharing, logging in with Facebook. You know, they don't even know who's using this site. I mean, there's a lot of people, I imagine, using this site who are Bank of Ireland customers. But they can still use the site. They can still ask questions about how to get, you know, what's your VAT return times every month, what's your, you know, what should you, how do you set up a company, a limited company or a sole trader, what's involved there. So there's a bit of help going on here, and it's not really a smoke screen because the bank, there's a huge liability there for the bank. So a smoke screen would be kind of just setting up a bank branded kind of blog page and keep restricting the comments. You can actually log in here and go nuts. So they are opening themselves up a bit. So which means the opportunities, I suppose, for people who are going into this area and marketing in the future, this is kind of where it's at, even though it's small scale for banks right now. I know in the UK, there's like the UKTI site is set up, and it's RBS backed and a few of those other ones. So the big corporates are actually dipping their toes a little bit. So that's interesting because a few years back we would have just slide here. I just want to dive into for a second, and we'll try and bring in some real live examples. It's around content, creating content. Now this might bore the hell out of some of you, you know. But I try to stay away from the technical stuff a little bit. These slides we'll try, and I think Simon's going to put these up on the site or something like that, so you can get your hands on them anyway. There's some examples in here, and at the end I'll try and give like 5 or 10 minutes just to answer questions, because I want this to be a little bit interesting, so we can just ask questions about anything if you want to, it's cool. So, content creation here. Most small businesses have a budget to hire, you know, have no budget to hire a team of professionals, copywriters, that kind of thing. You know, this can make, you know, you can't dedicate staff to this stuff, writing content. Now, we introduced a couple of sites at the start. There's some cool e-commerce sites in Ireland, a social networking site that's kind of working. It has like over 10,000 people in there. So, what makes those sites work? Probably not a cool logo, and probably not some wizardry in terms of how you log in and stuff like that. So some technical skill that some guy coded in his basement. That's probably not how they're popular. They're kind of popular because the content is great. So sites you go back to, like TechCrunch is a good example. It's a blog, it's about technology, I'm into technology, and it just has blogs. And you scan them, and every 2 hours there's going to be 15 new ones. But it's good content, the bulk of the time it's good content. So that's why I come back, not necessarily because it's a cool website. So you need people generating cool content. So the journalists, even though they're not getting paid as much for writing blogs, and blogs are kind of not journalistic like that much, they're the ones where the brand and the 40 million for TechCrunch that was spent on pretty much acquiring the team. So it wasn't really spent on the brand, the team and the brand. It wasn't spent on buying a WordPress site, because you can set that up for free. So the content creation, people are crap at it. People create crap websites. I mean, 9 out of every 10 websites that you can just Google and look up right now will be crap. I can tell you that, you don't need to look them up. So the idea that you need to create good content on a site is something you need to give some time to, you know. So I'm going to introduce a couple of steps. Acquiring TechCrunch, the entire brand, you know. But what I'm saying is that you couldn't say that they pinpoint WordPress. We want to buy your WordPress site. They're buying the content that it generates, the workflow that's been put in place, and the brand recognition at this stage that's actually built. So everyone knows now, if you want to look something up, you look up TechCrunch for technology news. Something that's a new app that comes out, or something that's breaking, that's what you look up. And to build that brand took years, so you're paying for that, you know. And they were acquired by AOL, if anyone wants to Google that stuff. So understanding content is king. You'll come to some crappy websites, and it's just a blog or whatever, but if you can generate great content, people will read it. Because if you generate a great blog, all you got to do is click 3 buttons, and it'll be on your Facebook page, your LinkedIn page, your Twitter page. So it's kind of easy to get 50 people to read it. You know, that's not a difficult thing. Then you might get a sponsor on board, and you get more people reading it. So it's case of you've got to sit back and go, what is good content? So, you know, a website isn't a valuable marketing tool unless you have well-written content. Skipping down steps, search engines like Google, all their jobs are to do is find good content. You know, people talk about Google, I want to be top of Google. You know, that's the first thing we get asked by a client, you know, I want you to build a website and I want to be top of Google. And that's it, like that's all they care about. But to do that, the only thing Google cares about is finding good content. So there's no tricks. I mean, Peter might have a few tricks there on how to get up through the Google rankings and stuff like that. But ultimately, it's Google's job, and there's millions spent on this every day, and really good engineers working on it, to find the best content. So James Sullivan sitting down on the website going, I can trick the guys in Google. This is what I do with the keywords, this is what I do with it. That'll help a little bit, but I'm not going to beat the millions spent every day making search engines better. So if you type in, you know, Ferrari, you know, they want the car to come back top. And they want the best website displaying that car to come back at the top. If they don't do that, people will start using Bing or Yahoo again. Because if they don't do that, their search engine is kind of crap. So your website, you have to generate good content if you want it to be successful. An example, TechCrunch, there is 37 million page views per month. That's staggering, you know, in terms of what you can make on advertising revenue. There's 2 million friends and followers of all their Twitter accounts and Facebook and so on. So they have a mini community built up just by launching a free network, you know. So research and basic structure. So, you know, start by researching websites that are similar to yours. Search for competitors in your area. So if we're going to start a technology blog, you know, a better place to go to than TechCrunch or Engadget or one of these guys and see what they're doing. What kind of sections they're writing about, what's popular. I think actually online, reading a technology blog, just from perspective, it's a lot more valuable to write about technology than to write about the car industry. So you would expect that a car ad, oh, I have a car ad on my site, I'm going to make millions out of that. Toyota are going to pay me lots of money. Well, Apple and Microsoft will actually pay you double the money than having a car site. So a car site or a technology site's twice the value. And it's a simple reason for that. Typically, you know, people who are into technology are sitting at their computer all day, like myself. People who are into cars are driving their cars around, so they're hopefully not looking at their phones. So you will get more people using a technology site than a car site. Therefore, you get more money out of it. So that's just the websites. Obviously, this is a big deal nowadays because everyone thinks everything is for free. We all think music is for free. We all think videos are for free. Nothing is for free, really. So even if you type in Google Images and you find a lot of images, the only ones you can really use are the logos of companies because they kind of like to be marketed, and even that is a kind of a scary thought because some companies are really particular about their logos. So I know Dunnes Stores, for example, just can't use their logo on anything. I'm not sure why. There's a couple of sites here that are kind of helpful. The team page is quite interesting, actually. A lot of sites we build, the About page, if you're building a service-based website or something like that, the About page is actually a pretty important page. It gets looked up quite a bit, actually, which is odd to a certain extent. But I kind of understand it. I mean, you want JamJo to build you a website. You want to know what James and John are like. What are they into? What's their skill set? What are they good at? What's their experience? So the About page is kind of useful just to dig into service-based companies because you want to know who's actually carrying out the work. A lot of sites there that are quite popular are their e-commerce sites, not so much.